I'm a fix-it kind of person. I like to fix things. If it's something that's an actual thing, it's broken in my home or somewhere else, I'd love to get out whatever tools are necessary and try to repair it. I also like to fix things that are broken in relationships or organizations. I like to see the problems, consider the solutions, and try to fix whatever that is. As I read chapter 21 of 2 Samuel, I see that it is a lot about fixing, but even deeper than that, it's about making things right. And there's a difference in those things. To fix it is just to offer repair and to fix it. To make things right is to make things whole, specifically in relationships. That we reconcile relationships, we make them whole. So as you pick up in 2 Samuel 21, it starts off saying that there's been a 3-year famine. And King David is praying about to God why this famine is occurring. And what he understands God say to him is that it has to do with the Gibeonites. Now Saul, who was king before David, who is now dead, made an agreement with the people of Gibeon. And he made a peace agreement with them. But later on, he broke that agreement and did some real terrible and injustice to the Gibeonites. And so now the Gibeonites, for years and years and years, have felt as if an injustice was done to them, which it was. And they don't have peace. They don't have reconciliation. They don't have wholeness in this situation. And so what David believes he hears from God is that the Gibeonites need to be made right. The relationship needs to be healed and reconciled. Now, the really interesting thing is that this did not occur under David's leadership. This is something that occurred under Saul's leadership. But David, as one who is pursuing after God's own heart, sees his responsibility as king and as one who is been in authority from God. It is his responsibility to make this situation right. Now, the really interesting thing, when we talk about faith, we talk about life in Christ, we often talk about amazing grace and how amazing it is. And it truly is the grace that God offers us. And the songs we sing about Jesus, saved a wretch like us, and how amazing the grace is that brought about the reconciliation. That through Christ, things were made right in our life, not because of anything that we did, but because of what Christ did on the cross and overcome sin and death. And so David is in a place where there's been injustice done, and although he did not do the injustice, he knew that there was responsibility for him to take care of it, to make it right. And so he went to the Gibeons and asked, what would it require? What would you need in order to make this injustice right, to make it whole, to reconcile it? Now, the really interesting thing is, if you're familiar with like Alcoholics Anonymous or any other addiction programs, there's 12 steps to them. And the 8th step in that program is to make a list of all the persons you have harmed, the individual. So if it was me, it was to make a list of all the people I've harmed. And then becoming willing, make amends to them all. It's really interesting. It's just one step, but it may be one of the hardest steps people have. To make a list of all the people that you have harmed. So that requires us to get rid of all of our pride, all of our ego, all of our victimization, all of the things that are about us. And to just honestly say, let me make a list of all the people I have harmed. And then it says, becoming willing. That is transformation occurring. That it's something that's different in us that would give us the willingness and the ability to go make amends for all the people we've harmed. That is the amazing grace piece. You see, when we receive it and know it ourselves, then we allow it to transform who we are so that we can discover the love of Christ in our life that then leads us to wanting everyone else, specifically the people we have harmed, to know the same love and the grace. And that we would no longer be an obstacle to the brokenness and the injustice and the hurt and the pain and all the things that have gotten in the way of people potentially experiencing the amazing grace of God. And so David does what the Gideonites' request. Now again, I don't understand the Old Testament times and some of the requests, but I do understand what it means to make amends. And what I do understand is how hard that is. And so when I read this chapter, I have tremendous admiration for David. He did not cause the injustice, but he sees it and he knows he's responsible to it because he is a responsible follower after God's own heart. And so he makes the amends. And then it begins to rain again and the drought goes away. Now, I don't believe that it always works like that. That we see some problem, we assume that God needs us to do something, and then all of a sudden rain will fall. But what I do believe is, if we would have the same responsibility of David, and that if we see injustice, specifically any injustice that we have caused, and that we would go make a list of those injustices, and the brokenness, and the hurt, and the things that we have caused, and then we would show up in the lives of those people, becoming willing to make amends, that the reign of God, that the peace of Christ would be available to those that have experienced brokenness and injustice. So what would it look like if you did that? What would it look like if you were like David, that you took responsibility for injustice in the world, whether you caused it or not? If you took responsibility for broken places in the world, whether you caused it or not. If you made a list of all of those things, and then becoming willing, allowing the amazing grace of God to continue to shape your life, to be able to lead you to places to go make amends, what would that look like? And how wonderful would that be? Like the things of heaven, the realization of God's amazing grace, Christ's unconditional love will be realized in your life and in the lives of others and in this world. So what would it look like for you to work at making things right?